Hi, welcome to our introduction to the selection tools. And we've used really just one selection tool to make this sphere, just the marquee, the elliptical marquee, made that into a perfect circle. We've saved that selection into an alpha channel that we can reload and reuse. Um, and then we've uh, painted within that selection. And that's pretty much all we've done here. But first, what is selecting? Selecting means that we're going to call out an area of pixels, and they'll be bordered by these little dashed lines moving around that we so professionally call marching ants. That's really what we'll call these all through the year. And then you can paint inside that selection, or you can use that selection to paint or erase or do effects or any number of things. Um, you can deselect an active selection by doing Command D or doing deselect from the menu here. You can select all, select that entire document if you want to paint or to delete things from the entire document. You can do Command D to deselect. And we've got up in this upper set of tools here, right by the Move tool, we've got a number of ways to select things. We've got the marquee, we've got the lasso, which selects based on a mouse movement. And there we go, selecting based on a mouse movement. I'll do Command D to deselect that. We've got the magic wand that will select based on a pixel color. If I click out here on the background outside of my sphere, it will select all of that, and I can paint in that area based on that selection. Now if I select inside the sphere, it's going to select um, the neighbors of that mouse click that have a similar color, and you can set various tolerance for that. And each of these three tools up here in the options bar has some different options. You can feather the selection, you can soften the edge by X number of pixels, or as you make a new selection, you can choose to add to that selection. Um, Here I'm adding to that selection. You can choose to subtract. Oops. Sorry, to subtract from that selection. Here I'll make a little intersecting ellipse, and it's going to subtract from that selection. Now to show you the effect of that, I'll need to invert the selection. That means I had selected what was inside those marching ants. Now I'm going to select what's outside those marching ants, and I can delete that piece that I just subtracted there. Of course, now I'll select all, do Command A and delete that whole thing, and do Command D to deselect. But each of these selection tools has a new selection, additive, subtractive, or intersecting command that you can put on it if you want to expand or subtract from a given selection, which is a real handy handy tool to have at your fingertips. What we did, though, to make this sphere, and I'll go ahead and delete that existing sphere layer, and I'll go ahead and delete my alpha channel so that we can show you how to do this right from the start. What we did was I got on my layer here with my sphere, and I did that elliptical selection. And I'll hold down my Shift key to constrain that to a perfect circle. Wait a second, let's get in new selection mode. There we go. I'll hold down my Shift key to constrain that to a perfect circle, and watch in the info palette in the upper middle of your screen where it says W and H there, and we'll get that right at the 3-inch mark. 2.8, 2.9, and here comes 3 sometime soon. There we go, 3.07, right around there. And with your arrow keys on your keyboard, you can nudge that selection. And when I get it made just the way I want to and get it placed just where I like, I've worked a fair amount on this, and I want to make sure that I don't have to duplicate that work. So I'll go up here to select and get save selection. I'm going to save this position of this selection, this size, this position on my document. It's going to save that. It's going to save that into a new channel for me. We'll talk more about channels in the future. But for now, we'll save that to an alpha channel here. And just remember that that's a place where you can save it. You can view what that looks like, but then do go back to your regular gray channel so that you can work in it. And now if I deselect that, and I do other things in here, and I come back to that layer where I want my sphere to be, I can go up to select and say load selection. And it says, gee, John, which channel do you want me to load? I'll say I want you to load circle. That's why it's important to name it something that makes sense to you. And there you can load that. And I've got a gradient all set up, and gradient is a whole other subject. But I've got a gradient all set up that I can do my initial painting with. There it is. And I can deselect that and see what that looks like. Choose to view that layer or not. Layers is a whole other subject as well that we'll have a video on. But now I'm looking at that gradient and I think, gee, I'd like to paint that a little more with a brush. Oh, darn, where's my selection? Well, I can just, again, go up to load the selection and choose my circle channel. And now I can get a brush and kind of paint that in a little bit more, darken that in, or choose maybe another brush with some other texture on it to use. And now I can deselect, and I can deselect and reload that channel all I want, and it'll always be in the exact same place. And it's really, really hard to try and draw something and place it in exactly the same place at exactly the same size. So this bit of loading that into an alpha channel can be really important. So that's our intro to selection and how to save a selection, how to deselect, how to select all, and how to load a selection that you've saved and utilize that for your project.